Stokesy! Welcome back, friends. We have a very special interview. Who's getting interviewed? Me. I have my friend Stokesy out here, a very prominent member of the PulseChain community, and as well as crypto as well, and now a good friend. So, Adzi, what are we going to talk about today? Everyone's excited, right?
Sommi, you champion. I've been doing this for many years, and it's the first time in my life that I've had my guest introduce the session. So thank you, my crypto brother.
That's right.
Mate, the audience has been screaming to get you onto this channel and perhaps me onto you. So it's good to meet you. Welcome to the crypto land. What the hell is going on in the Richard Heart ecosystem court case?
So fascinating, friends. Today, we have just seen a great moggening of the corrupt SEC. So there are reports of everybody who showed up to the corrupt SEC's battle with Richard Heart, and it's a fight for crypto, and it's all really this whole convergence of all these narratives that are forming together. We have Donald Trump coming in for his re-election, and we have crypto in the background working its way through the justice system as well, and everybody's trying to push in more adoption. And then at the same time, we have Richard Heart battling the SEC, and there's all these really weird, unique things that we've never really spoken about in society before, like can actually just mathematics be free speech? And all these things are kind of converging together, right? Which is actually fascinating now. And for the Richard Heart court case, which is happening, has actually just happened now, all the reports, shout out to Mr. Nuclear Herbs and everyone else who did great commentary on it. It's looking very good for the ecosystem, very good. So our Judge Auntie Carol, she is very well versed with blockchain. The corrupt SEC, pretty much, they had no leg to stand on, really. And it was a lot of the biggest FUD things that we were worried about literally a year ago when they did that fatal announcement. These things about mingling of investments or money laundering and people being scammed and all these other fraud allegations. Pretty much none of them were discussed, which has shocked me, okay? There was actually, if everyone wants just a quick snippet as to how advantaged the PulseChain community was, there was a moment in there where the corrupt SEC's legal team, they wanted everyone in the courtroom to raise their hand if they're in the US, if they're from the USA, okay? They just asked the judge, I want everyone in the USA, if you're from here, please just raise your hand, and they're trying to prove if there was jurisdiction, right? To show that, oh, you are affected and you are a victim in the USA, right? Now, to my surprise, Judge Auntie Carol said, no, I'm not even going to let you do that. So that's honestly kind of telling me she's already kind of made up her mind, okay? Obviously, we're ready to do whatever. We're ready to fight. Remember, they moved the court date twice. So they try to get everybody in Halloween. And like I said, Ben, I've got the necklace right here. This is not the hornet's nest that you want to kick. They are the friends and family that you don't want to meet, pretty much. This is everyone in the PulseChain community. So it's been a very, very positive turnout. And now I think once this is finally behind us, looks like it's getting close to a conclusion. We're going to need about 60 days. We can move into the next phase of crypto adoption. So yeah, what did you think? So have you heard about any comments? Do you have any views on it as well? What's going through your mind on that?
Well, mate, I was listening to a live stream this morning with Maddie Allen and about 500 other people on X. So they were in a Spaces stream, and the morale seemed very high. And what I'm trying to do is actually figure out, is there any substance to this case? Can we go back a step? What exactly is the charge from the SEC against Richard Heart? Is it against the individual? Is it against HEX? Is it against Pulse? Is it against the whole thing? Is it the vibe? Is it Marbo? What's going on?
Good question, sir. I think what's happened is, okay, the SEC, they need a specific case out there in crypto where they want to pin something down to be a security, which is their label that they can control, and they want to see a lot of people hurt. So if they can pin these two together, they could probably get some sort of precedent set where they can then use their power to go after a lot more things in crypto. Unfortunately, though, like I said, man, they picked the wrong hornet's nest. Because in the real world, normally you would think price drops of minus 99%, normally it would be like, you know, a room full of angry people who are calling for blood. But in crypto, we know that price dips are in the game. We know Bitcoin and Ethereum's prices, they've had big, giant, volatile swings as well. And now if everyone watches my channel, right, we can see that all the fundamental valuations of everything, they go off Metcalfe's law and network effects, which is just people joining the network, okay? So it's not like a company where it's directly related to the cash flow or the revenue of something, okay? It's something different. It's just the number of people joining. So if people can join a group, can they leave it for a couple of years and then join back later? Yes, that's actually it. That's actually what happened to Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So the corrupt SEC, though, they don't want anybody to focus on that. What they want everyone to look at is, say, price chart went down, this guy's rich, and they were doing like these securities stuff going on. So I think it's just funny, the court case that we're actually like, that we're even like speaking about, it's just all about jurisdiction. So it's like they're asking, well, obviously the whole, what everyone's been worried about is like, can they even go after Richard Heart in the first place? And if Judge Auntie Carol rules in our favor, then that'll be like a big, big advantage thing, right? So one of the biggest parts of the court was this question that was asked, like, where does the blockchain live? Which you can't even answer, which it shows that there's a heightened sense of focus and concentration by Judge Auntie Carol and everybody else working on it, because we haven't even answered this for pretty much everybody in crypto. Like, what does it mean to be in crypto? What is the network as well? Does it mean everywhere on Earth? Because like there are international water laws. Do they put the same laws out here on a blockchain? And which blockchain, by the way? Like if you commit a crime, but the information went to somebody's server in Antarctica, like where did the crime come from? Is it because you started? What if it's not you? What if you told an AI agent to commit the crime and it's on an Amazon server somewhere else? All these things can't be worked out, but as we get to see, right, the SEC, they know all these, so they're basically just trying to pin it down for something where they can basically get more power later on. And I think it's a very, very good result that we're seeing. A lot of these things that they're trying to figure out, Richard's lawyers basically showing that you know, code being free speech and all these things, you're starting to put them together, and it's not like this black and white issue where we can just put it in the stock market box out here. But obviously, I'll be honest as well, with all of these, it does help that Donald Trump releases an altcoin and comes into crypto and gives a double tick on that. I think that was actually a big, big, big undertone showing that society is moving forward. You know, I mean, it's obvious to us, but to everybody else out there, like people, I remember my parents always saying, like, they don't understand stocks. Still, you know, immigrants, they have no idea what stocks are. They're like, I can't live in it. You know what I mean? And now stock market people are saying in crypto, like, you know, the same questions that immigrants maybe say about stocks. Oh, I can't live in it. It's not a real thing. Okay, what a stock? I don't own a share. I don't own a company. There's no CEO to call, right? So I'm glad that all of this is getting fleshed out, right? What are your thoughts as well?
Well, you raise a very good point. When it comes to the Hexicans, I've always said there's no community like the Hex community. And I have a deep loyalty to the Hexicans because when my channel was banned many years ago, and I'm not a Hexican, I'm a normie. My job here is to bridge the divide, if you will, the gap between the crypto normies and the Hexicans, and try and bring these two ecosystems together. But even though I do not identify as a Hexican, I've had the honor of interviewing Richard Heart 3 times. I was reviewing HEX all the way back in the day when it was called Bitcoin HEX. That's how far I go back. But when I started talking about HEX, I actually lost a lot of subs on this channel. A lot of people got very angry at me for even talking about it. Now we fast forward and a lot of millionaires have been made out of this ecosystem. But what is fascinating is, as you mentioned, you said the product, if you will, has pulled back 99%. And yet here we are with a room full of supporters saying, well, there's no victims here. And none of us are complaining. None of us want compensation. And that's fascinating in itself, that you've got the SEC who's here apparently to protect the consumer and the investor, yet there are no victims here saying, well, we need help. Can you draw a comparison perhaps between the SEC taking on Ripple and the SEC taking on Richard Heart? Is it the same type of case?
You know, it's interesting. The Ripple case, it's the only one we can go on, but like, I don't want to say anything that upsets the XRP army, but as well, just to share something quickly, Stokesy, you got unfollowed for talking about HEX. Oh man, I still, to this day, okay, I'm literally like a unicorn in the wild. People, they see the logic, they see the evidence, They see all the information. And I think what's even makes it even more spicier is I draw conclusions and similarities to Bitcoin and Ethereum early days. And then when they see the Richard Heart thing, okay, they just can't get over the hurdle. They're like, how? Oh, you're getting scammed, right? Or poor you. They still don't get it, right? They still don't get it. But yeah, so you're asking about about the XRP Ripple case. That's very interesting because so for everyone watching as well, Ripple, they are an actual company. There's an actual office. There's a tweet I do. People don't know. It's a tweet of the actual Ripple headquarters office. And Ripple came to crypto pretty early. They made their coin like in 2013, but Ripple did something that it's very unorthodox compared to like the ethos of crypto today. So Ripple, they own a lot of the tokens. So it was like, you gotta understand how different this was. Bitcoin comes out in 2009. Satoshi appears out of nowhere and he releases this coin into the wild. Wouldn't even know what coins are pretty much on the internet, okay? It was pretty much 100% coin distribution to the world, whoever wants to take it. Ripple come in 4 years later and they do the inverse. They give themselves all the tokens. Okay, so they, instead of 100% to the community, they give like 0%, right? And ever since then, they have this method of like, it's pretty gray. What they do is they unlock the tokens and they will send some of them back to the vault and they'll send some of it to a market maker to go sell, okay? And I made some videos on this, but it's a very nasty thing. It's like I came into your house, I open up your vault, and you've got $5,000 of gold in there, and I took all $5,000 of it, and I gave you back $3,000. And I go, see, I'm giving you back the $3,000. It's literally in terms of purchasing power being robbed. It's literally a same equivalence. So where does that bring us to where we are today? So Ripple eventually, they get the law case put against them from the SEC, and I'm actually very proud Ripple were able to defeat them. And it was a very, very tough case because during the times I was getting attacked, crypto's use cases, they were like, no one even knew really what the hell was going on. We had no real good examples of things to be proven to the world. And even XRP token today, it doesn't have the banking adoption that pretty much they were promising for 10 years, okay? They have a $1 billion balance sheet that they only got from dumping Ripple, dumping XRP the whole time. So if there was ever a case for a crypto loss, it actually should have been that. They did everything, which I think it literally makes it look like a security. Instead of like dumping on the open market, they send it to one business, market maker, and they dump on the market, okay? And I guess the XRP army, and there's thousands and thousands of them, with their support and their tenacity, okay, and their willingness to stay in the game, they were able to get this to have a positive outcome. So if XRP and Ripple get given the tick, it's easy for Richard Heart to get the tick because Richard Heart, we have to compare. I don't want to be like this. I don't want to come out here and just appear like this mercenary with all these examples, but it's true. Like Ripple are extracting value, so they release a token. And then people buy the token and they're basically selling the token on the market and they're taking everyone's money they put on their balance sheet, okay? And then when you have Richard Hart's case, it's like completely opposite. It's not value extractive, it's value adding, you're right? And everyone can see that with a public wallet sacrifice of the stash in Ethereum and stuff as well. So he's done everything pretty much Ripple has done in the opposite. And the only thing though is, all those facts get lost when you look at a price chart, as you've seen. Today in my juicy news, there's a stock. I'm still gobsmacked at it. There's a stock called Carvana. Okay, now Carvana, they say they're like a used car vending machine company in America, and they dropped. I'm not joking. They dropped 98.5% for a stock. And how do I know this stock? It's because in 2021, when Dogecoin Mania and Elon Musk was going around, I watched a couple of these stock market guys, like the big stock market dudes, and they were talking about it, and they were buying the top of it, okay? And it dropped to 98.5%. So when I heard about it, like a few years later again, I was like, oh, crap, stocks are just as risky. But today, I just noticed, and I saw on Twitter, another big influencer, Andrew Kang, posted this. It's retraced most of the move. It did a 62x return from the low. So this is... Seeing this thing appear in society, I'm absolutely like, I'm blown apart at how we have these giant price swings and people don't give up. I don't know if it's because of the crypto spirit. I don't know if it's anti-establishment spirit, but something's going on here. This is not normal. Okay, this is not normal. I don't know if people maybe they see themselves climbing the mountain, or everyone sees themselves as the underdog, which Richard Hart certainly sees himself as the underdog, and everybody in the Hexagon community and PulseChain community, which is the same thing. We see themselves as the underdog, right? Because the government's coming after you and stuff. So I think all of these things, they're starting to come together, and I think this law case is just. It seems like it's a big part, but I think it's actually a small part. I think the big things coming are probably coming next year.
Do you think Ripple's precedence is going to help HEX? What they went through, does that help us?
Good question, sir. It has to. I mean, it has to, because Ripple were extracting value. They were selling their tokens, and they have money on a balance sheet. They have $1 billion on their balance sheet. And it was been happening for 10 years. And once again, I hate to sound like this if there's XRP army people out here, but one of the most embarrassing things ever. It was so shocking and embarrassing. I couldn't believe it when I read it, but it's true. So Ripple, before Ethereum got popular, Ripple's whole claim was that they were going to be the payment solution of the world. Okay, so they had a big narrative in 2017. So this is very interesting to understand crypto. So we all thought crypto is going to be used for payments. We were right, but only halfway right, okay? Because we are using crypto for payments today. It's not buying coffee though. It's buying what we call tokens or entries into communities on the internet, or DeFi, privacy, stablecoins. So that's what we're actually using payments for, right? And Ripple, XRP, that's why they didn't participate in the 2020 narrative season, because they completely missed the ball. So for 10 years, they've been dumping their token. It was 8 years at the time. They collected $1 billion in cash, and their technology didn't work, okay? Which is embarrassing, but everyone in crypto, no one was really surprised. So what they had to do was, last year, they finally threw in the towel, and they said, we are going to fork Uniswap. So literally, Hayden Adams, in his underwear, makes the Uniswap formula, which is all used today. It's like one of the most great, it's literally what I call the third pillar of crypto. So the first pillar was Bitcoin. The second pillar was Ethereum. The third pillar was Uniswap. This formula, trading ratios and how everything can connect with liquidity pools, change the game, okay? It's third pillar crypto. Ripple capitulated. And they said, you know what? We're just going to use this formula. And everyone just rolls with it. And it's funny, they see it as a positive now. And because we're on the outside, I'm like saying, there's $1 billion sitting in a balance sheet. They were meant to make superior technology, and they literally just went and copy pasted the open source one. And actually, do you want to know what's funny? XRP chain 3 days ago had the most volume it's ever had in its history. It spiked from $60,000 a day to $5 million. $5 million. Why? Now finally they deployed the Uniswap formula on the chain. People started making meme coins, and they start trading meme coins. So right. It's crazy. Yeah. Billions of dollars don't go anywhere, and now you have open source copy pasting stuff going on. But it's just showing you crypto is really global, and this is the way of the future.
I think something you touched on before, I think when people are looking, why invest in crypto? And you can see that so many of the younger generation and even the older generation, if they've missed the property market, with the cost of property, the interest rates, this is really the only hope for so many people to get themselves out of debt, to get themselves out of poverty, and to move to complete financial independence. I want to learn a little bit more about you, if I may. Your TA is exceptional. Your commentary is very good, and you're bloody hilarious. So let's go back a step. Were you an investor before you got into crypto? And then when you got into crypto, was HEX your first move?
Great question, sir. So you're asking about investing and all that. Yeah, I learned trading in a very unique way. Okay, so I learned basically how to spread and spreading. So when I do ratios, they're like easy for me. So when I came into markets, it's very important, right? For context, I came in after the GFC, so it was like a few years after the GFC happened. So all I ever knew was that market sell-off. That's all I ever knew. So what ended up happening was I found the strategy where you had to spread Australian bonds to American bonds. Okay, so for everyone sitting at home, basically, I started to learn, this is the most mind-blowing thing in the whole world, is when you watch world markets correlate to each other, okay? And because you grew up your whole life, everyone says, no one understands the stock market. It's impossible to read. And to see things follow each other, it blew my mind. I'm like, you're telling me that if this thing goes up, this thing goes up, right? And that's all it took, right? So that started the journey to where I got to today. But to be a spreader, this was interesting. You can't go with direction, okay? You basically sit there all day and you wait for a really wealthy fund who's lazy. They don't want to execute a trade over a month. They want to do it in a day. So they'll execute something and they'll blow a spread out. They might blow it up like 5 units higher than where it should be. And so you would take the other side, okay? So whenever someone was selling, you're looking for dips. When someone's buying, you're looking to fade, okay? So that's all I ever knew in markets. But then, after all those years, I discovered crypto. And this thing blew my mind because I've never seen, I didn't even know what log charts were, okay? No, you don't need log charts in the stock market, right? And I saw the 2017 Mania appear, okay? I had friends and family get in. I had no idea what the hell crypto was. And remember, I'm coming in from a contrarian perspective from markets. I know that, Warren Buffett, you got to buy the dips and all this stuff. But I watched a lot of people rush into a mania, and I watched the mania go on for way longer than I could ever think, okay? Because I had my cousins getting in. That was like in the beginning of 2017. It was March. I'm thinking, naturally contrarian, you're like, okay, this thing might be bankrupting people in like a month or two. And then it kept going and going and going and going. It's kind of funny. By the end of it, it went so far. It made me bullish. But when it started crashing, everybody who told me to believe in it, now they were bearish, okay? And so I started to notice something. I was always opposite to the crowd. And I don't know why. It was actually interesting as well. Whenever you watch Peter Schiff, there's one part of Peter Schiff's behavior which blew my mind, okay? Peter Schiff once, he was on a panel, and they asked him, it was a few years ago, maybe 2021, 2022. I think 2021. And they asked him, which cryptos do you think is going to do the best? He's like, they're all going to zero, right? But it's a crypto panel, right? So they said to him, okay, Peter, you got to choose Bitcoin or Ethereum, pretty much. And the whole panel said Bitcoin. So he goes, look, if I had to choose, because all of you guys are saying Bitcoin, I'm bullish on Ethereum, okay? Just to hear him talk like that, it was like a window into what being contrarian is. He's always going against the crowd. But here's the thing now, he's doing it wrong. He sees crypto people as the crowd when we're like 1% of the world. We're not actually the crowd. We're just really, really loud and passionate. And so he says, you're all going to lose all your money. You're all caught in one side. And then we're trying to say, no. We're on your team. It's the 95% of other people out there caught on the other side. So it's a very delicate thing to do that, right? So learning all these things along the way, that helped me get to where I am today. But you always have this perspective that you always got to remain humble, because there's some things that happen in 2021 which like people still don't even believe. Like, for example, you can know about gold, you can know about real estate, you know about stocks. Did you see Shiba Inu do a 400x? Exactly. In 48 hours, okay? People still talk about that today. It did a 1 million-x return. So, also, Stokesy, you mentioned about real estate and all these other assets. I think what helped me the most, and that's why I talk about it on my channel a lot, if you look at everything in terms of growth rates, how much they're paying every 4 years, it opens your mind. So gold is about 8%. Aussie houses are around 10%. Stocks are around 10%. But here's the problem, right? They're debasing the currency at 7. So how are you meant to get ahead if they're printing money, you're losing 7% every year, but stocks are going to give you 10? You're only gaining 3% per year. It's literally going to take you, not joking, 3 decades to retire. That's why it takes you that much in the stock market. But crypto now exists, and crypto's growth rate for the past 4 or 5 years has 55%.
Yeah.
See, that's pretty much, and once I started to see that, I realized, crap, even though there are these periods, the crowd gets bullish, the crowd gets too bearish, okay? Taking that long-term view, ultimately, That's what helps you win. Okay, until we're going to get to that point, hopefully in 10, 20 years, everyone has woken up to this and the edge will all be gone. But lucky for us, we're still early.
It's so important to beat that hurdle rate. And when many people say, oh, I've got a savings deposit of, I don't know, 3 to 4%, I'm like, cool, you're losing 3 to 4% per annum. And they're like, no, I'm gaining that. And I'm like, no, it's being inflated away. You are not meeting the hurdle rate. And they're like, hurdle rate, what is that? And it's so funny that you should mention Peter Schiff, because I always sort of refer to him on my channel, because we do see eye to eye that the enemy per se is fiat. Fiat is the biggest Ponzi scheme in the history of humanity. And Schiff and the crypto goers, we all agree, the US dollar is a scam and all fiats are a scam. Where we don't agree is that he says, well, this thing has no value. And it creates a lot of frustration because you say, well, something's got a market cap of $2.4 trillion combined. Don't tell me that doesn't have any value. And just because I can't touch it or make jewelry or gold doesn't mean it doesn't have any value. And if it's digital, well, try and tell me that email files or Google or Amazon Web Service, to try and tell me that that doesn't have any value because you can't touch it. So when we actually move into understanding what value is, in my mind, value is determined by the market, not by me, not by you, but all of us together. Where I think many of the normies out there are sort of losing focus is that they're so, I want to say in a nice way, financially illiterate. They don't understand how money works. And it's not because they're bad. It's not because they're evil. It's in fact because they've been denied an education. Now, this is, I'm trying to segue into what's happening in the political space at the moment. You mentioned at the beginning of our discussion that it's very exciting with what's happening with Trump and Harris. Let's go into politics. Trigger warning to all the viewers out there. We're going to touch on something that could trigger some people. Who are you bullish for? Is it Harris or is it Trump? Two parts. Who's going to win and who do you want to win?
You know, so as we move into this discussion of these politics, before I even came in, I mean, from the start, I was just always ignore the politics, ignore. And it's true, you really should, friends. It doesn't give you any edge whatsoever. However, on the topic of network effects, okay, this is why it actually is important. I never thought, it's so boring to me. There's something interesting though. You know, you mentioned, talk about gold and Uncle Peter Schiff. Uncle Peter Schiff, look, gold is a network itself. It's the oldest network in the world, okay? There's just one thing about gold that Peter values so much. In crypto, you don't have to pretty much worry about. And that is that physical thing that gold can do, okay? You could use it for jewelry or whatever. But the truth is, and so I swear, I promise you, I still get messages today. People don't believe this stat is true. It's actually true. The industrial use case, so the utility function of gold, it's only 15% of the price. So 85% is just network effect believers. That's it. 85%. And when I heard it, I'm like, nah, that can't be right. It's actually true. It's actually true. So 15% of gold. So gold can drop 85% in price and it's still useful, right? So Uncle Peter Schiff, he doesn't give any value to a network at all. So if you understand in crypto and you understand we're in network effects and how value is subjective, okay, you can start to really understand this political sphere, okay, and why it's actually relevant, because Mindshare and crypto, they go hand in hand. Because you're basically pretty much, you're dealing with network effects where there's no profit being generated in anything, but there's activity somewhere, and this marketplace, it's not giving it a zero value. Uncle Peter gives it zero value, but the marketplace doesn't, okay? So once you start to learn that, I realized, oh crap, maybe this political thing is more important than I thought, because how people are feeling with the pendulum swinging, it might actually impact how they participate in crypto. In April 2023, Pepe coin, remember Pepe, friends? It went on a massive run up, okay? And I made this video called The Ribbeting, okay? And it's so crazy at the time. Donald Trump wasn't even in the picture. And I said, well, I don't know why I could sniff this out. I had a feeling that we're seeing an anti-establishment movement in crypto. And I don't think crypto is unique to the world. I think it's just a microcosm, which just means a smaller version. And I go, if this is happening like in terms of this this movement of anti-establishment and the little girl hasn't been looked after that much and just something's wrong out there and we're not in control. If that's happening in crypto, it's probably happening out there in the rest of the world. I mean, it's shocking to me now, like a few days from the election, and like everything has been playing out like that. The corruption, the planned assassinations, all of these, right? I still think they're going to try to rig the election somehow. But yeah, it gets very, very topical and political. But the best part is, man, of all of these, it's like clockwork. Every 4 years with this US election, the only thing that would kill crypto, I'm not joking, friends, I literally get asked it. The only thing that would kill crypto is if the politicians went on stage and they said, and one of them just said, you know what, we're going to have to lower our debt, and I'm going to have to sack about 65% of government workers, and we're going to have to basically have hard times for about 6 years, but we're going to be better for it. Okay, if that candidate appears and there's a lot of votes for them, goodbye crypto. Basically, goodbye stock market. Okay, but they're not doing that. Okay, it's always the opposite. It's always spend more, promise a lot of things. Okay, so that's pretty much what's been happening. And you know, I got the biggest inspiration. The very first video I watched in crypto was Eric Voorhees debating Peter Schiff. Okay, so Uncle Peter Schiff and Eric Voorhees share 99% similar views. You know, they're going to spend all the money. The politics is really important, but it's like, why is it really important? They're always just spending the money. The debt's going up. And I watched Eric Voorhees pretty much just demolish Uncle Peter Schiff. I still remember this debate, man. It was one of the first videos I watched, and it really opened my eyes just to see, because it was a perfect natural fit for me. I go, okay, 45% of society is on the left, 45% of society is on the right. And you can say, okay, not everyone's happy, but what's that 10% sliver? And so someone out there who's not used to crypto, they'd think, oh, maybe the 10%, I've got to be like an independent person, or like, you know, go on these different political endeavors and do these protests. And no. That 10% is where we are in crypto right now. It's like you bet that, okay, no matter who wins these politics, no matter how heated it gets, they only have one response, and that's to keep printing the currency, you know. But, you know, even saying that, I do think about a day one day where we're going to repeat 2021. So this might be how 2025 plays out. In 2021, everyone knew that about the money printer, and people were disrespecting the currency. But at the top, they started misallocating capital so much that when the prices went down, people sold their crypto to go back into the fiat. So it was just like imagine you're a government and you're a politician, and you're the deep state, and you're watching people. They just yell about how trash your currency is, but when the prices go down and people don't feel good anymore, they sell the scarce assets to go back into the fiat. Yep. It's almost like they have us by the balls, you know what I mean? So I wonder if 2025 will play out like that no matter what. No matter how good, maybe Kamala wins, maybe Donald Trump wins, it doesn't really matter. But I do wonder if that happens, where people have an awakening, but then we play out the natural cycles all over again. So it tells me that there's greater things at play here than, you know, a politician winning in some presidential election going on. There really is something. This thing is way bigger than we think. It probably tells me that crypto is only at 2.5 trillion. It feels like this thing should be at 10, you know? It should be near gold size. That's ultimately why we're all here on the industry still.
The language is very powerful about selling crypto to getting into fiat. Some of my community, they say, no, you're buying fiat. That is, you use your crypto to buy fiat as opposed to selling. And once we sort of change that paradigm of the language, it's like, no, you're not selling from something to get into fiat. You're actually buying fiat with your crypto. And when you put that paradigm on, it's like, yeah, why would I do that? Why would I buy an unlimited asset, air quotes, by using my scarce asset? When it comes to politics as well, I tried my best for the first 4 or 5 years of this channel. I'm like, no, don't get politics into it. But because I'm more macro focused rather than micro, you can't be in financial markets and not talk about politics, because the politicians, they make the policy. Those policy affects the markets, and those markets affect what we're doing at this end. So where I'm very nervous at the moment is what will happen with the election, whether it's left or right that wins. That's irrelevant. What I'm thinking about is that there's going to be civil unrest. When it comes to, if you will, global security, have you got any, I guess, opinion on what could happen after the election?
You know, the election, I think once it's done, it'll be smooth sailing next year. I think back about, there's so many charts I've shared where there have been like massive plagues, wars, earthquakes. And I have this one chart, wish I can find it, I posted it. They have the stock market chart from the year 1500, and it just kept going up. Every war, every invasion, every single crazy thing in the world, and people just somehow get over it and move on. I really think that's how it's going to play. That's what I feel like. I feel like this thing's going to be really, really big, and then when we're over it, we're just going to move on to the next thing. That's how I feel. And even on the topic of politics, crypto now, so my whole life, politics is so boring. But now, okay, you can actually, if you understand it, you can actually make money in crypto, because this is why stock market guys, they lose in crypto, because the memes that they use, a cash flow and all these other things going out, hey, they don't apply in crypto world. What we're doing is we're literally, it's funny, we're looking at these politics and memes and how the crowd is reacting, and like this observational behavior, it reflects itself into how people allocate their capital units in crypto. They're like voting with their wallet pretty much. And it's not just as simple as, say, buying political themed meme coins. It's not just as simple as that. But we're seeing like this theme of, like I mentioned before, anti-establishment, or the pendulum swinging the other way. And I think that's why it's really fascinating, these things that they reflect, especially in crypto, because in the stock market world, you can't actually bet on this. If you're a kid and you understand these things, you and I can't do anything in stocks because it's goods and products and services and all these. So that's what I always found really, really interesting. Crypto's like opening up this world that has something for everyone, and you can actually come and participate, you know. Some of them are direct, like I mentioned. Okay, Donald Trump's, he's getting elected, therefore Donald Trump themed coins are going up, you know. But I think even with crypto itself and the success of crypto, I think that undertone, it's all pretty much saying the same story, which is exactly what we want to see. Because every day, man, you wake up and you just like, every time, whenever prices go down, everyone has that fear. They're like, oh crap, what if things get worse? What if there's a World War III here? What if China does this? Like, what are we even left with? Just a group of people, right? So understanding that, I think that's everyone's key to going through. But also, I don't blame everybody, because a lot of these politicians and these things that appear, they're so topical and seasonal. And when they start moving on, there's always like another planned event. I mean, I'm really looking forward to next year and how it all plays out, because there's every conspiracy under the sun. Some of us think it's going to be great, smooth sailings. Other people think if Donald Trump wins, they're going to like do something bad in the next 3 to 4 months to make the economy turn, you know. I personally think, look, I always lean back on Warren Buffett teachings. And I know Warren Buffett's not the most popular guy in crypto, but he's the most popular guy to me. And you watch every single university lecture he ever went to and he spoke about, and there's always someone in the crowd who asks him, hey, there's a political thing going on with like Iran and oil, and what do you think about this? And he doesn't care. He doesn't care. Right. He goes, I'm just betting on this. So I reckon in crypto, if you just remove all of that, you're just betting on these groups of people, because we're never going back. You know they're debasing at 7%. You can't hold it. You know they are. You know, that's why I always say in crypto, look at yourself. Like, if it's hard for you to leave forever, new people coming in are going to feel that same way too. And that's your bullish. I think that's your bullish undertone. That just tells you there's so much more room to grow from here.
You've made me really think about the entertainment of politics. Like, when I agree, when I was younger, I didn't care about politics. Who cares? It was boring and it made no difference to me. Now it's almost like a soap opera to me. Do you think, your thoughts, are we enjoying politics more now, or getting more involved because it is more entertaining and more emotional? Or is it because we're older and we think it's got more of an effect on us in the markets?
You know, I thought about this deeply, because people always wonder, okay, you know, Donald Trump, why is he so popular? And I describe him, he's a living meme. Okay, now, when you say living meme, it just sounds funny, right? Oh, what does that mean, living meme? He's an actual living meme. His sound bites and his reactions and the buttons he presses just gets reactions out of people. He's like a living emoji. And the more I thought about it, and then it's kind of crazy. Now he's actually in crypto, you know? But when it was separate to crypto, I just realized, wait, that's what crypto is, okay? Because everything in this world, okay, comes down to a part of your brain remembering an action to do when you like come across an item out there in the world. Like, for example, I always use these examples. So when you look at a Ferrari car, the real value of the Ferrari car, it's not the metal or the engine or the tires. The value is the digital real estate in your head. If you imagine like a 25-year-old kid wins a lotto, wants to tell everyone he's successful, he goes and buys that Ferrari car, right? And there's only a limited number of space in your mind to store that information. He's not going to go buy a Toyota Corolla. He's not going to get a skateboard, okay? And it's interesting. There's certain things we feel as like a, there's men, women, and like just different parts of your life. Certain things you feel and certain needs and wants you have where there's only a few winners up there. There's only a few things that can satisfy it up the top. So for women, I always use the example. If they want to feel like they are the sexy luxury girl, they get like a Louis Vuitton bag, okay? And then guys have like the Rolex. There's always like the classic Rolex out here. And I always wondered, why are they there and why isn't anybody else there? And then it made me realize, wait a minute, it's exactly what crypto is, okay? Bitcoin, it's the first. A lot of people don't even know why Bitcoin even has value, man. It's a Satoshi story. The guy gave away trillions of dollars to the world. You can't do that anywhere else. It sounds so simple, sounds so crude, but you're looking at that and you look at the politicians and you're like, wait a minute. The only politician anyone ever remembers is Trump, okay? Because of the memes, the memetics. But it's funny in crypto, because there's no cash flow and it's just networks, the market's actually, as a collective wisdom, it's smart. So it knows if you have 1 million people in a coin, it will still give you value, And it did this to stocks like Amazon in the early days. Amazon had a lot of networks, warehouses around America, but it wasn't the most profitable company, but it was still worth a lot. And it kept blowing through the highs. I still remember in like 2012, flicking on the TV and people were saying Amazon's one of the most overvalued stocks in the world. And it went up like another 5x from that point because they just didn't understand networks back then. So we understand networks now. We know the market's smart. If it sees 1 million people in a group, it has value. Actually, that's how I got popular in the Hexagon community. I was making videos at the end of 2022 saying, hey, Metcalfe's law is how we all have value. There are 200,000 people in this community here. It's not going to zero. And everyone loved it. And some people even like messaging me saying, hey, are you just telling us what we want to hear? I'll go, no, that's literally Bitcoin. Bitcoin has value because it just grows more people and it grows more mind share, And that's why I always think about someone like in politics, okay? In politics, you only remember one guy, Donald Trump. You only remember him because he can stick in your brain. And that's actually what we're doing in crypto because crypto, it's a peaceful protest everywhere. We're just dealing in the digital realm. You can't put a gun to someone's head and tell them, own this coin or behave this way. So isn't it fascinating how we basically make friends over the internet? It's kind of like soccer teams or tribal teams. Okay, it's countries without borders. That's what we're doing here in crypto. It's just not everybody has figured it out yet. All we see is just a bunch of communities on the internet. Everyone thinks they have their own way of life out here. But I think everyone's going to be mighty surprised over the next couple of years. I think. Well, we've got a lot of countries out there in the world, different ways of life, different, there's, some countries that have very, very long work hours and they don't have a lot of leisure in their life, and then others have the opposite, I think in crypto, we're eventually going to see stuff like that play out, okay? That's why whenever I'm watching politics and stuff, I always have that angle. And I think it's like the fact that Donald Trump's a crypto guy, like he gets it. He gets it, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean like it's going to be like great forever. But I think it's fascinating, isn't it? Like the meme, like crypto's like it's a meme asset, and the meme guy has NFTs, and he like comes in like it's like no one else has been able to do it. Like think about this, you couldn't even write this in a movie.
One label I've heard for Trump is that he is culture, but Benny Johnson actually says it. He goes, Trump is culture, and it's like, well, what does that mean? But it kind of links to the meme because memes are a mirror or a take on culture at the time. And, whatever he does, I was speaking to one of my friends who's hardcore on the left recently, and she said, it doesn't matter what he does. I love watching it because he's so entertaining. And, and that in itself, it's like, well, even if they're designed to hate him or they're supposed to hate him, they still want to watch him because of the entertainment value that he gets out of it. And I'd actually ask you when it comes to your channel. So your channel grew very quickly, and you mentioned, when you first started, you were speaking about HEX. Can I unpack your background a little bit in the sense that was your first crypto HEX, or I think you've touched on it, you were already into crypto around the 2017, that's when you first saw it, What
I
was your first crypto and why did you move into HEX?
Yeah, my first crypto is obviously Bitcoin. Okay, I was trading, so I was trading Bitcoin. I was trading for a pop firm, and just very interesting stories, friends. We traded with a lot of people. Okay, there's a lot of guys in the room. Everybody was trading, but in the end of 2018, I remember I was frustrated. It was October 2018. The Bitcoin price was 6,000 US. It wasn't moving anywhere. And so what I decided to do was I want to figure out, where's Bitcoin going? Where's it going? And I was so frustrated. Some people said zero. Other people said like up. And that upset me. I'm like, how come there's no, why can't I get a definitive conclusion on this? Why can't I get consensus? So I turned off all media for a month and I went and researched everything myself. And it actually pissed me off because in 2013, when I was trading, there was no inflation because, you know, we had interest rates at zero, recovering from the GFC. And I remember looking up on Google, why is there no inflation? Okay. And the responses went dead. I was actually looking up, why was there no inflation in 2013? And I think back to that time, if there was just someone out there like me making videos like this on YouTube, I would have come across them. But I had I had nowhere to go. So I just thought, well, I'll just get on with my life, okay? Then, obviously, when I start learning about crypto and then Bitcoin, I'm like, oh, crap, that's why there's no inflation, because they're printing the money, okay? And there was such deflationary debt that there actually is inflation. It's just the numbers are all rigged, okay? So once I started to learn that, I realized, Bitcoin's going to $100,000 plus, you know. But it was interesting. I was in a room. I was trading in an office with a lot of guys, and they didn't believe it. They were trading it as well, and they couldn't see it. So what they were doing is they were cashing out their Bitcoin every month. And I remember I was begging. I was actually begging so many of them, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And, you know, it's funny. We're looking at these numbers now. You know, I was the only person, I'm not joking, let's say there's about 20 trading, everyone in Bitcoin, everyone in crypto. I was the only guy who thought Bitcoin would be above $20,000 within the decade. Okay, that's how bearish it was. Because no one had seen anything like it. It's kind of funny now, we're talking about 100K, you know? So being in it, that's when I realized even being in it still isn't enough, you know? So I started off with Bitcoin. It was funny. After Bitcoin, I didn't even know where to go. I wasn't on Twitter. And I started hearing about Ethereum, okay? Now, I'll be honest. What drew me to Ethereum was Vitalik's head, okay? I'm not joking. I saw Vitalik. He's got a giant head. His brain can barely fit in his skull. He literally looks like an alien. And I was like, I've got to go all in on that. That guy, whatever he is, this creature, it's going to work, whatever he's doing, right? And I remember I was in a Discord and it was the end of 2019 and the Ethereum to Bitcoin price was really, really low. It was like the lowest. I was in a Discord, there's other traders as well. And I'm not joking, within 5 hours, I researched Ethereum and I'm like, oh wow, this thing's going to flip Bitcoin one day. Okay, literally straight away. And this is when I started to learn about people, right? I had a thesis, we're going to flip Bitcoin. And I was telling everyone, you can convert a bit of your Bitcoin, put into ETH, and you can get more Bitcoin later on. And everyone was on board, okay? No one did it. What happened was, I'm not joking, 4 weeks later, Ethereum starts going up, okay? And everyone was messaging me, wow, Ethereum's the future. Ethereum's going to do this. Ethereum's going to do that. And I'm sitting there confused, like, why are you excited? And I started to learn, oh my gosh, wait, the price went up. Why are you learning now? The price is higher. You should be upset that you missed it, okay? But they would buy in. They actually bought in. Then 4 weeks later, the price goes down. They sell out of it. Literally everybody. Okay. And they said, your thesis is stupid, doesn't work. I couldn't believe it. Literally in 8 weeks, I went from unknown, hero, and then scammer. And they haven't even moved that much. It's just 2 months. And so I thought something's going on here, right? So that eventually led me to look at other altcoins as well. Because I knew Bitcoin and I knew Ethereum and I wanted to look at the other altcoins. The problem with the altcoins was, the extreme risk. Like you're dealing with 2017 era stuff, the white papers and all these people abandoning. We hit the bull market, okay? But in the bull market in 2020, we had this DeFi season. I had this humbleness from markets. I knew that it's more random than you think. There's more chaos than people assume, okay? A lot of people see someone does really, really well and they think, oh, you knew exactly what you were doing. But a lot of the times it's more luck than they think. And I always had that in mind. So in 2020 and 2021, when I was like allocating for a bull market, I had some XRP. I had some EOS. I had things where I'm like, okay, this is why I started to learn, right? I learned firsthand. I researched the most profitable crypto protocols. Okay, well, these are the top 10 things making the most money. These things should do like, if this garbage is doing 30x, this thing should do 100 times my money. They didn't move. They didn't move. And I remember that. So eventually though, throughout that year, I saw HEX. And I was coming across Richard Heart streams, smart guy, and I was very suspicious of him at the start. Very suspicious, okay? Firstly, I thought it was a complete scammer because I was getting my information from like Altcoin Daily and wrong information. But secondly, he was just too sharp, okay? He was just too sharp. He never stuttered. Have you ever met somebody he's never stuttered? He doesn't misspeak. He doesn't stutter. He doesn't even do typos, okay? When he speaks, and I thought after a few streams, I go, this is just a fluke. There's one video, I forgot specifically which one. If you watch his streams, you'll know. There's one video that blew me away, okay? This is when I knew he's superhuman, okay? There's a video, he hadn't slept in like 30 hours. Something ridiculous. He had not slept. He's falling asleep on camera, okay? 2 hours into the streams, there are people just shit talking in the chats. There are people who are just saying like silly things and cultish things, and he's able to just explain things like he's literally a freaking robot, okay? Now, I'm looking at him like, dude, that's not how a normal human being speaks when they haven't slept for like 30 hours. He looks like he was about to drop dead. Literally, that's the time. And he was literally super freaking human. And this is a very, very unique qualitative edge analysis, right? It has nothing to do with the fundamentals, but that was as much as fundamentals as I need. Have you ever come across someone like that, right? So that's when it led me to start researching more about, say, communities in crypto. It was funny, no one else had ever done that. And that's what actually led me to believe that I was on the right path. Because actually, so you don't know, Stokesy, I saw one of your HEX videos, okay? And you were so measured. And your response was like so detailed and you're so calm. You were like just a different energy vibe to the extreme high energy cultish behavior. And so when I saw that, I'm like, oh wow, I'm not crazy. This is exactly what I see. But now here's the thing. Me being crazy or not, convincing other people out there, totally different story. The best part is in markets, you don't actually need to convince people of that. So, you know, as I start to dive more into HEX, and then obviously PulseChain comes out, I started really to look into what actually gives crypto value, you know? And I was like one of the first people talking about it in 2022, which shocked me. Like, wow, it has nothing to do with these profits. It has nothing to do with sponsorships. There's no balance sheet. It was literally just the people in the network, right? And then obviously I throw all these stats out, like Bitcoin started off with one person. Now it has 320 million people in there, right? So as it kept growing, the value just kept going up. Just people adopted over time. And then what I started to do, this is what blew my mind away, was I tracked the number of holders and the price of other coins. So it was funny. First I did it for HEX and it worked in terms of like every time HEX's user base doubled, the price went up 4x. Okay. Now, when I saw that, I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's a fluke. And I was actually scared, I remember. And so I started looking into Cardano, Ethereum, Shiba Inu, okay, other coins. And to my shock, it all worked. All of it worked, okay? Even Shiba Inu, a meme dog coin, it followed the same trajectory. So that's when I knew, wow, all you need to do is get people in the club. Okay, that's another way to think about it. And that's when I could see, okay, if Richard Hart, he can speak to a lot of people, and he has these US American Constitution principles, freedom of speech, freedom of movement. I thought that's so generic and that's so big. He basically got first dibs on the US Constitution, and it could speak to like a large, basically young, middle, and old age demographic. And that's how I knew we were basically on the right path, putting all of that together, you know? So it was a long step to just get here every step of the way. But obviously, what happens along that way, as you learn more and you get more bullish, the price just kept going down and down and down. By the way, I've got a lot of altcoins. I've got heaps, man. I've got a lot of the other things. But this one just had the most value. No exchange listings. Gate kept. By the way, man, so many coins I talk about, the Richard Heart ones, they're the only ones people message me or they'll tag me going like, oh yeah, you're still getting scammed by Richard. That's the one they say. They say that every single time. Okay, why are you saying that about this other coin or this other dog coin or one that obviously looks like a joke or this JPEG NFT? Why is it always him? So that's how I knew, okay, he's got Mindshare in everyone's minds, okay? Remember we were speaking about digital real estate? How I said like, hey, Ferrari, it's the first car you think of when it comes to that. Okay, well, if he is lurking and the PulseChain community and HEX logo, they're lurking in everyone's minds, it's just a powder keg ready to explode, okay? Just like Donald Trump's always going to lurk in everyone's minds. As you said, your friend out there who's gone a bit left, they're like, oh, I'll just watch it for entertainment value. Do you know what I mean? So that's when I really started to uncover what actually gives things value, and pretty much it's storing digital real estate in your brain. And people who can hack that the best and do it the most effective, they're the ones who get the most value in crypto. And everybody else who's unfortunately wasting their times trying to solve like a niche problem, like maybe with coding and white papers and all these other things that don't relate to people, they're on the wrong path, And right now there's a big disconnect in crypto. That's why we have this VC coin versus meme coin tug of war, right? So that's why it's funny, even like staunch Richard Heart maxis, they don't even understand that HEX was a meme coin, So when it came out, it's a meme cult religion archetype as well. When HEX came out, like, it's funny, the only reason they were buying is because Richard was saying this thing was designed to do 10,000x. This thing is a better Bitcoin. That was a meme. Unproven, right? So yeah, it brings us to where we are today, right? So it's been like that one long trajectory.
I remember clearly, I can relate to what you're saying when you first saw Richard. I can remember when I first saw him on camera, I'm like, there's something about this guy. Like, I didn't know what it was, but as soon, he was arrogant. Actually, you can start to relate it to Trump, can't you? He's kind of outspoken, very intelligent, arrogant, charismatic, opinionated, sharp. And as soon as I saw him, I'm like, there's something about this guy. And what was very appealing to me is that when I reached out to him, because I'd been living in crypto for at least a couple of years before I saw him. And when I reached out to him, he was very responsive and said, yeah, let's go live. And I'm like, my very first live stream ever on this channel was with Richard Heart, and it was on his channel. And I'll just have a quick crypto confession here. I was terrified because I always did pre-recorded. And so here I am going live, and I'm not only going live for the first time, but I'm going live on someone else's channel with me interviewing, because that's how we used to do it. We could interview him, but it had to be on his channel and it had to be live. So those were kind of the three conditions. So I'm going live with a genius, as I saw him, for the first time on someone else's channel. But after a short time, I found it very easy to speak to him. What I then learned, and I appreciate your opinion on this, I've always said quite openly that the Hexicans have a higher level of thinking, and that higher level of thinking enables them to understand the HEX ecosystem and the value proposition of what HEX provides. Now, to counter this, before I just say go HEX, I say, well, in fact, that's kind of the downfall for HEX, because you see, the network effect we talk about with a meme coin as an example. Okay, it's got a picture of a dog with a hat, I'll buy it, cool. But then when you talk about HEX and stakes and T-shares and sacrifice and burning at the stake and unlocking later, that's a lot to comprehend. So its strength could in fact be its weakness. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so everything you're describing, it's that's why, like, you got to be humble in markets. Everything you're just describing was basically toxic, radioactive things in the last bull market. Toxic, radioactive, because we had 0% interest rates, okay? They were printing a lot of money. And in crypto, we had DeFi, the first emerging big use case. So there was none of these tribal themes, no cults, no offerings, none of these needed. It was more about code and like, hey, we have a supply and a demand of products like Aave and money markets. There's Chainlink. They're feeding price oracles. Basically, the Lego of the crypto was basically putting in together and giving us what we call like DeFi today, which is still working. So Richard, it's kind of funny. This is why I'll put it eloquently, okay? Richard is the only guy in crypto, I'm not joking, who tried honestly and deeply to replicate the success of Bitcoin, okay? Everyone else in crypto focuses on the Ethereum method, okay? So Bitcoin's method was, I'm starting a thing, we're going to grow, and then we'll figure out the rest later. That was literally Bitcoin, okay? Organic like that. The Ethereum method is a bit different. The Ethereum method is, I'm gonna make something, and there's gonna be like a utility component with it. Okay, so I got a gas coin. Okay, and then that's why Ethereum guys, Ethereum maxis, they love the DeFi stuff that appear like Aave. Like, okay, you pay slippage and a spread, and their fees go to somewhere else, and it's like financial Lego. It's just it's basically just like the banking system put on the chain. Okay, and Richard was looking at Bitcoin, honestly, but even in 2020, when you're looking at it, being like what he was able to do back then, people would have thought at the time that he's behind the curve, okay? Because he was looking at Bitcoin too much. But now, as we're moving into this new theme of meme coins, cult coins, religions, it seems like he was so far ahead of the curve that he was right, and we're behind the curve in terms of like everyone in crypto just focusing on making crypto with like a specific gas function or something that you really need, okay? So when he designed HEX, remember, it was a finished product. He didn't try to add in like these 15,000 features. I know it's interesting, you talk about your first experience with him. Something that blew my mind, he could take something really, really complex and then like summarize it in like 3 words. You know, I'll never forget this. He called Chainlink an eBay for prices. Okay, my mind blew at how he could just like take this super, super complicated thing and just reduce it to that, right? So obviously you're dealing with like some sort of superhuman. But now, okay, moving into this cycle, I'm gobsmacked that this whole token offerings, staking, cultish behavior things, it was like they were laughing at that stuff. Now, the product market fit is everyone is running towards that. It's an asset now. And I explore a lot of why, and it makes sense because in crypto, we all know when liquidity inserts, we go up. When there's like the crypto recession, which is a bear market, we all go down. So what are you left with? If everything goes up and down, you're only left with strong believers. That's what Bitcoin people were like, okay? So if people are there and they're only there to use a coin while things are going up, they will abandon that when things go down. They'll go use something else in the following cycle. So these are the types of observations we're able to basically learn. So that's why HEX community price is down so much, but having that cult aspect, okay, I still think that's what's going to happen in this cycle. The market's going to price that in as a real asset because people are going to enter and go, wait a minute, nothing can kill these guys. There's no profit generation here. It's a community, it's a family, and they're still here. Okay, it's early Bitcoin. Okay, they don't need to add any extra features. They don't need it. We're happy with it. You know, that's why it was kind of funny. You know, if you look at Eric Wall's biggest criticisms of HEX was it was uninspiring. He goes, you're just handing out yield. You have this thing. There's no magic here. Okay, and also other criticisms of HEX were people, I think like Jordi Alexander, they believed that other HEX clones would come and they would offer different game mechanics. And then they would basically vampire all of HEX's value away. But completely wrong. Totally wrong. So it's like Bitcoin. But here's the thing. If they looked at Bitcoins, this is why I told you, everyone's looking at the Ethereum model where they go, okay, you are doing 10 transactions a second. Okay, Solana can now do 500. So now it's taken away all the people there, right? But Bitcoin, even as a no-tech type of thing, it never tried to compete on that. That's why if you look at the Bitcoin philosophy, it's the most neutral money, decentralized. And the Bitcoin people, whenever they speak badly about the rest of crypto, they always talk about the coin handouts, okay? Because Satoshi gave all the coins for free, okay? See, no one in crypto thinks about that. all they think about is, oh, well, Solana and there's Ethereum and one has faster transactions. And this is where all like this swapping of money going on here. But obviously Richard Hart understood all of this, okay? That's why he didn't keep himself up at night thinking like, oh, should I increase the yield or should I make it 10-year staking instead of 15-year staking? It didn't actually matter. What matters was the group of people. And that's actually why a lot of my content, I always focus on the genius thing he did, right? He put the first dibs on the US Constitution and just like infused it into the chain. Okay, so it's really, really important that, because if you're trying to adopt a lot of people, okay, they want to be able to like hear words that inspire them. And when you're hearing things like freedom of speech, freedom of movement, and all these other words out here, it's actually bringing people in. So this is like, it's really, really true to Bitcoin, but it just confuses a lot of people because they come in and they go, oh, where's the extra thing that you need to do? But you don't need it to do a lot of things. It's the feeling. Okay, so like, you know, when you have a Ferrari car, if it does like 0 to 100 in 4 seconds, you don't need it to do 0 to 100 in 3 seconds to change your feeling. You know, you still feel like, oh, I've made it. Everyone's looking at me. Everyone wants to take photos with me. You know, so the more I thought about it with everything else that are like we know, as like the Rolex watch or just all these things that we have implanted in our mind, it all started to make sense, starting to come from that. So they're in their own little blue ocean area. They're not trying to compete with everyone else in the marketplace in the type of red ocean things, you know, which is what we went through. So that when I started to go into that, I realized, oh wow, this thing, and once again, got tougher. As I learned more and I got more bullish, the price just kept going down. People were exiting, people chasing other things out here. But I mean, I know deep down, if like this minus 99% thing, it was like an ugly type of label. Now it's a badge of honor. Now it's a badge of honor, man. Because like, if there's a lot of people joining and people have price risk and they're scared they're going to lose a lot of money, well, which other coin can say, dude, we survived minus 99%, okay? Metcalfe's law is real. This thing couldn't be killed with that. These groups of people, they believe in something greater than what the rest of the market is pricing it in again. And that to me, that when I start to see all this, obviously it took some time to get to that point. You could start to like basically connect the dots out here. But of course, all of this is just talk. That's why we're going to be really exciting for next year. So it's not just about me and you believing in this, is it the rest of the market? It's kind of funny how humans work, where everything I say, nothing matters now. Nothing matters now. But if one candle just prints this up, oh, you're not a 3 billion valuation, you're now 30 billion, you're now God, okay? It's interesting how this works. Also ties into the court case, right? So would Richard Hart even have a court case if HEX was 60 cents right now? You know, if HEX was 60 cents back in 2023, would they have even come from? It makes you think about like, but here's the thing, like the crypto prices are based off people joining and leaving. So like, why should we prosecute someone if people decide to leave a party? See, obviously Richard, and when he was talking to people, price tips are in the game and it's cheaper to get in now. This is basically what he's saying. It makes no sense to call a coin a scam just because it went down, because we know it's just people leaving the club. You know what I mean? Like imagine you went and bought tickets to a movie and then halfway in the movie, half the audience left. And you're like, oh crap, this movie's so crap, people leave. But then, you know what I mean? Imagine you want to go sue the director. And they're like, wait a minute, just because people left the movie, you're not having a good time? You see what I mean? So once I put it like that, it starts to make sense. But I get it. It's because we're so early. People don't really believe, oh, wow, if we just add more people to a network, we get more value. So being early, it like has its quirks, right? Where we do have this opportunity. But I hope everyone can start to see these examples over time and why you're still in the right place despite other people leaving around. So I hope that kind of makes sense, how we like connect the dots out here.
Well, what impressed me was when the markets pulled back in the HEX ecosystem, was that all the HEX conferences, all the HEX channels, all the HEX discussions, they didn't seem to fade away. And that's why I say openly that there is no community like the HEX community. And what I was also interested in getting your opinion on, when Richard went radio silent, you know, so the case came out, he did a lot of streams, there was a clear contrast. And some people get triggered by this, but I just say this as an ally and an observer. There was a lot of streams, live streams with Richard on. And then he kind of went radio silent, and then we had some tweets coming back into the ecosystem. When is he, in your opinion, why did he go radio silent, and when is he coming back?
So that is such a good question. I've never told anybody in the community this, but this is a Stokesy first. In 2022, 2021, somewhere around that time, I knew he was going to do this. I knew it. I at some point, I figured out, obviously I didn't have an audience or anything. I knew deep down in my heart, he's going to pull a Satoshi on us. I knew it. I could feel it. But I kept it buried at the back of my mind. So this is how the universe works, man. I'm telling you now, friends, with markets, there's no free lunch. So you got to imagine the pain I felt. I know this is coming, but then the SEC make the announcement. It was like July 31st, 2023 last year. And then that happens. And then a few months later, he's not as active anymore. And you got to imagine the shock and horror. I was like, man, so I got the thesis right. He is going to kind of Satoshi us. I just didn't think it was going to be forced by the government, you know? And man, you just got to imagine, like, just you get kicked in the nuts. Like, you got the thing right, but not for the reasons that you thought, you know? So I still actually maintain that. I think, here's the thing, friends. So most people, what do they want? They just want to get rich, okay? Most people never even think about themselves. What does a dynasty legacy look like? Okay. Is it just you having a lot of digits? It doesn't mean anything, because people who with a lot of money, like, oh, you've got 10 billion, I've got 8 billion, this guy's got 100 billion, who cares? Okay. So you start to go into these like bigger questions that hopefully everyone in our audience can like think about one day, but most likely we won't. So when you start to think about these bigger, grander things, Richard always talks about a legacy. Okay. What's my legacy going to be? Elon Musk, you know, the legacy to advance humanity. If you actually think about what that really means, okay, you start to think about big movies and Bible stories and just like ancient things that we've just carried through, like, you know, just sharing word of mouth and just these grand things to inspire us over time. And this whole concept of the legacy and enriching everyone or just inspiring everyone, it's actually not to do with like money, okay? It's more to do with like self-fulfilling value creation. Basically, the thing runs itself now, okay? That's what it is. It's like giving life. It really is. I've got to use this example, actually. It's like the creation story. It's like God says, you know what? I can make humans in any image I want. I'm going to give you your own free will. Here you go, and do whatever. You see what I mean? Like that type of creation story. Well, I know it sounds crazy for people, but friends, when you're in like the top 0.001% of the world, Elon Musk, Richard Hart, you know, like Steve Jobs, they think about stuff just differently. You know what I mean? There's a billion of us, and there's like one of them. Okay, so I always envisioned in my mind Richard's grand plan was he would phase himself out just like Satoshi did. Okay, because if I'm going off the principle, Bitcoin's the most successful crypto, and he always talked about Bitcoin's long-term gains. If you even look at HEX, he always talk about, you know, Bitcoin went to a certain number. It was never talking about really Ethereum because it hadn't done its big cycle yet. But I could just tell. I could tell somewhere along the lines, the plan is to get it to run itself. And I always thought, what does even run itself mean? You know what I mean? Like, we have meme coins now. You know what I mean? The industry moves so fast, but somewhere along the lines, I think it would be like that. I think it would be a world where perhaps, just guessing, maybe if we win, he does like one stream against the SEC. Maybe he does one stream and then he just doesn't come back until the very end. Okay. And I always, even if he just never streams until the very end, I think a lot of people would be upset with that. But I've explained that it would be like his greatest achievement. Because he's like, he made something in the image of him and now it's self-sustained and there's his value here. And remember we're talking about self-fulfilling value creation? Nothing would make someone more proud than to see a community that grew so large that basically climbed the mountain with nothing except his whispers in the back of their head saying, you can do it. You know, you can do it. He's basically God. I want to say God as a God archetype, but that's how these bigger, larger than life people, they view themselves as like an all-powerful, awe-inspiring being. And honestly, can you really doubt him? Like you're moving hundreds of thousands of people, you know what I mean? These people get to inspire millions of people, right? I mean, also think about Satoshi's words on the white paper. We have 320 million people in crypto right now. It's literally a neo-religion, you see? So this thing's been done before, right? It's kind of funny because you see Richard Hart, he's got the twerking videos, he's got a top hat. People are like, oh, I don't relate to that, but Satoshi did the same thing, you know what I mean? So that's how I think it's all going. I think he phases out more, and it's not a loss, it's a win. He goes, oh, this is an ecosystem. You grew yourself. He goes, all we had to do was these like schizos on Twitter quoting him from years ago. You know what I mean? Quoting his logic, saying, oh, prefer A over B, or like, you know, real DeFi, or doing all these things. And that was basically their inspiration and motivation to rise to the top. You know, and what would the top be? Maybe it's actually on a chart. Maybe he's like a silent pumper, and he comes in at the very end and he just says like, oh, congratulations, you did it. It wasn't me. It was you all along. You know, that would be like the biggest magic trick of all. Wouldn't you think? He's like, you always consider him because he's so smart. You always think he's going to pull like a trick, a rabbit out of the hat. That would probably be his greatest trick. Almost like convincing you that you needed him. Actually, you being able to achieve it the whole time without him, you know, and it was just you convincing yourself that you needed him, but just having his inspirational words in the background or whatever it is out there going, you know. What do you think it would be? Do you think, does that even resonate with you? Does it sound too crazy?
It does. No, I'm doing a lot of thought experiments, and I can't help to think that you're right with when he faded away. It looked like he was fading away when, you know, the court case was thrown at him, but it was actually, he would have done it anyway. I think you're completely right. I think it would have been, I've come here, I've created it, here's the culture, here's the community, away you go, run with it, and it grows organically from there. What scares me, my friend, so to speak, is that, you know, he comes out victorious and then only does one stream and then disappears into the abyss. If you've read his book, Survive, so I read his book and it was in a very rough format when I read it. So it was obviously a lot of, you know, jotting down thoughts and slapping it together. But I think it was in my first or second interview with him, I actually referenced some of his work. And it had nothing to do with crypto at all. It was just random stuff that he'd learned in his life journey. And it's actually a really good read. And I think I suggested, or many people did suggest to him, that, you know, he gets a proper editor to lay it all out. That's Survive. But that aside, you know, I think this guy's got more to give. Even outside of crypto, there's more to give us, the people, on his thoughts. But because he is, I don't want to use the term show pony, like a showman. He's very articulate. I love the clip where he took on Craig Wright. Have you seen the clip where Craig Wright's on stage and Craig Wright is saying that he is Satoshi? And, you know, Richard gets up and just basically challenges him on the spot and references some type of stuff that's beyond my understanding and smashes him there. I think Richard still has a mission in this space outside of HEX. And I think that mission is perhaps, could he bring more people into the entire crypto ecosystem beyond just the RH ecosystem?
You know, sir, 100% yes. And that's why one of the greatest gifts I give the PulseChain community is I want them to know that Richard choosing US Constitution stuff, it ain't a mistake, okay? Because it speaks, you got to think about the genius part of it, okay? Kids go to school learning this constitution, okay? He's literally front run everybody in the world. I can't tell you, like, this is $1 trillion idea. You got to think about this, okay? Kids go to American schools to learn about this US constitution, free speech, freedom of movement, all this other stuff. He's literally just taken the words and planted it on the chain. You see, so like they're going to be teenagers and like early 20s, and they're familiar with it. They know it. It like speaks to their heart. Now, whether it's unintentional or not, maybe I'm going crazy, but that's when I'm like, oh my gosh, no other chain has even thought about that. All they're thinking about is increase the transactions and like, we believe in crypto. That's all it is, you know? So once you start to think like this, that's why I'm like, man, these visionaries, friends, there's no in between. Either you go to zero or you go the whole way, you know? So also speaking about his power, so this is how logical he is. That's why so often I'll get messaged by like, you know, it's a Bitcoin guy, Ethereum guy. It's always the same thing. Oh, you're still getting scammed by that guy, blah, 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 blah. It's always the same thing. And what they don't get is, because here's the thing, the price isn't high enough, okay? What they don't get is, when Richard says something and provokes them, okay, these people, because they're a bit cocky and arrogant, they see like a bunch of like culty, in their eyes, Hexicans saying, he's so smart for talking like that. And then they see it as like brainwashing, okay? But what they don't know is it's actually true. So Richard's logic, this is how logical his brain is. He says, well, I want to help the most amount of people. So he goes, when I speak, I don't want to help 12 people. I want to help 12 million people, okay? So what he knows he has to do, he has to dumb down words. He has to speak to the most amount of people. Also, he has to speak to people who are getting triggered by the wrong things. You see? So it's interesting when you think about it like this. The people who need help, it's not like people like you and me who ask questions. We're like, hey, this doesn't sound right. Let me go Google it, okay? Those people don't need help. The people who need help are the people who look at someone saying you're going to get rich and they go follow them. They're the people who actually need help. And that's why Richard Heart designed HEX to basically grab people like that. He's like, hey, I want to help people who get scammed, okay? And these people who keep getting scammed, they have no avenue. They're never going to ask questions. So I have to basically get them in, you know? And obviously, okay, once you have something like that marked on your name, the mid-curvers come out. They go, well, look, see, it is a scam. And what these taxi advertisements and like talking about price X's and multiples and stuff. But this is what they want to hear. So, because he's such a logical guy, right? So most people just think the world works in a way where you just go out, say a bunch of words, and you just gain a following. No, like if you look at all these billionaires, there's a reason. Like they have it's called a vision for like a reason. Yeah, they have a vision as in like, here we are today. The world's going to look like something else in the future. There are steps to get there. You know. There's a book out here. I forgot the name of the book, but they basically, some dude went and checked out every single billionaire. Okay, Ray Dalio, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, all of them. Okay, and Jeff Bezos. They all had common traits. And this is when I knew, okay, a billionaire mindset, it's more genetic than we think. It's not actually hard work, okay? It's genetic. So these billionaires, they can see the world in 5 years, and they think about every action they do day to day as either going closer or away from it, you know? So the type of email they send, who they call, you know, the tiniest things you and I would never think about, okay? Actually, Richard does that as well, right? So if you notice in Richard, he will never even say the ticker of a scam name, because he knows if he says the ticker of a scam word, it gives it life and he gets a bigger problem for himself later on, you know? So it took me like such a long time to go through these, and I realized, oh, wow, these people really are superhuman, you know what I mean? But it's in their own field, you know what I mean? So it's like, even, it's not like they're perfect in all other aspects, but when it comes to like their niche, that's what the vision they have, and they're just working towards it every single day. And so when we see something like a big PulseChain community, just know that like it was someone meticulously thinking about how we get there every step of the way, you know, and all of us just think is like works automatically, you know. So this is the type of magic that it's needed, you know. For some context as well, there's obviously there's a MemeCoin SuperCycle thesis going on lately, and we had a gentleman, Morad, who comes out calling MemeCoin Jesus, and he has a filter list of like what to look for meme, cult, religion, all these other things, and they're all great. All of them are great. There's just one thing in there he got wrong, okay? And I know he got it wrong because I learned from Richard Heart it's the wrong thing. And the thing he gets wrong is he says to look for coins where it's evenly distributed pretty much. There's a lot of like small people who are like having equal percentage of the supply. But everyone in PulseChain community knows to be smarter than that. We learned off Richard Heart, because how many times Richard Heart would go on stream and he would say, guys, you should be thanking these whales. He goes, how do you think these prices go up? That's why I've made a lot of attention and videos to show people how prices actually go up is somebody who sees the vision. They're not looking at tomorrow. They're looking at 10 years. They come into a market and they grab supply, put it in their back pocket, and they walk away. Okay? That is what actually takes prices up over the long term, you know? So, but that person, they're like buying big chunks, or they own big chunks of these networks, which is completely the opposite of what, say, a mainstream mid-curver would think about the scenario. So what they would think is more of like a generic, almost communist time approach where they think, okay, well, if everybody owns an equal small breadcrumb supply of a network, that it's going to grow. But we all learned from Richard Hart, completely wrong. Because Richard would, like, one of the biggest things that Hexagons always dealt with, they dealt with this FUD that one day Richard's going to wake up, dump it down 100% and walk away. Okay. And he would, like, every day, he was saying, why would I or anybody spend all this time to kill their golden goose? It makes absolutely no sense. He says, like, Elon won't dump all his stock, or any of these other CEOs. They don't just go dump everything in one go. They don't drop their invention. You know, Mark Zuckerberg, friends, just to let you know, Mark Zuckerberg, he got offered $1 billion for Facebook, didn't take it. He got offered 10 billion, didn't take it. Mark Zuckerberg got offered 140 billion for Facebook, didn't take it. It's worth 1.4 trillion today. You see what I mean? So, but here's the thing. I don't want anyone to run with this example and just throw it out there. These are very unique cases, but if you're early to something like a big movement, you know, PulseChain and this big community thing that's been going on, it's what you want to see. So it is on the right path. It doesn't guarantee success, but this is the magic potion, if you will, at the start. You need somebody who believes so hard they're willing to literally risk it all. And I think that's why Richard risks it all. Okay, that's why it's easy for Hexagons and PulseChain people to risk it all. And that's why every time there's like a 2% green candle, you'd think like we're up 300x. But that's probably the beauty of it, right?
The interesting thing in that is his ego, as we've all got one way or another. I remember doing ethics at uni, and there was something about ego, and they said everyone's got an ego, and many people pushed back and said, no, I don't have an ego. It's like, well, why do you dress in clothes? Why don't you just wear a potato sack? Or even when you're a kid, you're on a swing and you say, Mum, look at me. And it goes back to this ego. Now, many people that have said that when, you know, Richard's got a big ego. And I said, well, in fact, first of all, we've all got an ego. But second of all, that's his strength. Because as you mentioned, why would Richard want this thing to dump? He doesn't. It's not about the money. He's already got money. He's already made his fortune. And there's only so much money you need once you get to a certain point. The last thing in my mind that he would want to do is see his legacy collapse from him dumping his own coin. So that in itself is a strong play for this coin and for the future of it. I'm cognizant of time here, but I'm wondering, do you have I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to. Do you have a price prediction for HEX this cycle?
So this question, okay, PulseChain, PulseX, HEX Inc. I want to give a specific one from the bottom of my heart. I promise you, I just have no idea, because I can make a strong case for a 5x for the whole ecosystem from here. But I could also, after everything we've spoken about, okay, like think about he's infused the US Constitution, okay? So like, we're speaking about memetics and Donald Trump and stuff, okay, well, what better memetic than taking what they teach kids in school to learn about and then having something they can relate to on the freaking chain and being the only one to do it, okay? And if you have a world like that, that's like 100x from here. And by the way, 100x for the ecosystem, if PulseChain, PulseX, EHEX, PX Inc., if all of them did 100x from today and crypto grew to 10 trillion size, we would be breaking the high of 2021 relative to the industry. So it would be big. So like we got a 5x, we've got a 100x, but like just to like give you some Easter eggs out there, friends. There's a lot of things that, look, there's a few things that can happen. So look, I've made videos on this. We have to talk about it. It's very possible Richard Hart owns a lot more coins than people think of the circulating amount. And it's not to dump or do anything nefarious. It's to blow your mind later on, okay? And, you know, this is so funny. You know, when I first started talking about this, people saw it as a negative. And I'm saying, no, this is a positive. No one in the HEX community saw it as a negative, but it was always outsiders. I go, well, I would rather know that the guy who needs this thing to go up, if he owns more than I thought, I would rather that, because I know this guy's not leaving, okay? So there's that element that we are working with as well. There's also, like, this MemeCoin SuperCycle if memetics and networks are really the way of the future of crypto and people speculating between them, you have this hyper buy and burn on PulseX, which might cheat the system a bit, okay? It might cheat the system because what people don't obviously know if they're just trading day to day is all they're trading, and there's a tax of you switching your mind every day, and that goes somewhere, okay? It feeds people who believe in the system. So if you compound all of that together, I know we can get one end, a low end 5x, a very high end 100x. I mean, I don't know. I really wish I knew. One thing is for sure though, everyone pretty much needs a successful Ethereum. We need a successful Ethereum. I think Ethereum deserves to be a $1 trillion asset item, which that's a 9,700 ETH price. If we can get that, look, here's the thing, man. If you had all the money he had, you would put HEX above its all-time high just to do it, even if it was just for a day. You know what I mean? But it's kind of funny. A lot of people, they also criticize that, like, oh, you're relying on one guy. But this is, you know, this is the funniest part. If you go to Tesla, Tesla went up more in its later half than it did in its first half, okay? And I looked up what was the key difference. Elon Musk he bought 6% of Tesla at the start. And I think in the mid 2015s or something, he then owned 25%. And so Tesla went up more when Elon owned 25%. Can you believe that? So this thing is later.
Right.
So, isn't that amazing? Like this guy he owned more of his shares and the thing started accelerating more. So these things, everyone in crypto, pretty much every mainstream influencer, they should be studying stuff like that, but they don't. And I think that's why in PulseChain, especially when it comes to Richard Hart stuff, we understand this stuff. So when people look back in the future and they look back, oh, how did you know? And we'd always look back and go, well, you know, the guy who founded the chain, he clearly has an agenda, okay, where he respects the network, basically the coins, the digital real estate. He respects it. He's not handing it out. He doesn't want to pay influencers money. He doesn't want to give it away to exchanges. It's meant to be a store of value. You know what I mean? So I think when we look back in the future, that'll be a big explanation as to why these things succeed. You know, obviously, I want to give everyone just an amazing price, but I would love to see pretty much a minimum from today for the whole ecosystem. I would love to see it hit this $100 billion market cap zone. Cardano hit it, XRP hit it, Binance hit it. Cardano hit it without any smart contracts. Just to show you, we're going to talk about a meme. How does a smart contract platform hit 100 billion market cap without any smart contracts enabled, you know? So if we can get that 100 billion, I think you're looking at around the 50x from today. Obviously, I'm hoping it's much higher, you know? So obviously coming in here being bullish, but yeah, if Cardano can hit these numbers and Doge can hit these numbers and all these other things can hit these numbers, why can't we?
That's right. And they did those numbers when there was much less money in the markets. I think your take on Ethereum is very fair as well. My forecast on Ethereum, it's a $10,000 coin this cycle. It does have the network effect, but there's just so much opportunity out here. I also see Bitcoin at the low end of 147,500. Don't worry, we won't go through all the coins, but we have spoken about it and it is a center of gravity. Price prediction on Bitcoin for this cycle?
Yeah, so another very interesting one because the crowd is, look, there's one scenario. I was going to make a video on it, but I'll tell you now, okay? Hot stuff. There's one scenario that we get this price of Bitcoin, it stops at your price target about 150 and it satisfies every condition in terms of the crowd gets it wrong, and we know the crowd's always wrong. So most of the crowd gets it wrong, and it still grows at a top tier asset rate to be able to reach a 40% growth rate per annum, okay, by 2028, which would be about 250K. So in a nutshell, if you were to look at the chart, okay, in the bull market, what happens is Bitcoin's price goes so high, it prices in the future too much. Okay, so it looks 3 to 4 years ahead. So, like Bitcoin went in 2017, went to $20,000, collapsed. it came back to $20,000 at the end of 2020. So like 3.5 years later, right? So that's just how markets work. They price in the future too much. That's the bubble. They pop. There's a chance in this cycle that we don't have a massive euphoria pop for that. We get to a healthy price, but we don't price in too much of the future. And what that would mean is, if you look at the chart, it's where Bitcoin maybe stops at 150, comes back down, but then does the unthinkable and it breaks its all-time high in 2028. So it goes to like 250K. So if you imagine that chart, so it goes to 150, comes back down to 100 or something, and then it goes back to 250. That's basically, Bitcoin's allowed to do that. If you look at the growth rates and basically what it's done in the past, it is pretty much allowed to do it. It's just that doesn't satisfy the extreme euphoria type of thing that everyone's looking for, you know. But then again, I mean, like, we've just had Michael Saylor come out and do these like extreme turbo leverage, $42 billion. He wants to like basically borrow all the US fiat and buy Bitcoin as well. So never underestimate FOMO, but I want everyone to know that that is still a possibility of these things out there to happen. And you got to remember as well, with Bitcoin, they got 300 million people in the network. PulseChain only has 200,000. Okay, so if 1 billion people on board crypto, surely PulseChain people, we can grow from 200,000 to 2 million. That's a 10x of the user base. That's 100x of the price growth, you know? So looking at those numbers and those price targets, I think they're well within expectations, you know? And then but every time I get a bit bearish, I think, man, but they printed so much money. Electricity, food, price of bananas, the price of fruit and good, they're just so high. Crypto's so volatile, it shouldn't go to fair value and just stop. It can't. It's too thin. It becomes a really rare commodity when it goes up. So, you know, I'm always swinging across that, but 4 years ago, it was probably the same thing, you know? So I think by next year, it'll start to become very, very clear how we're headed, right? Especially after those first 3 months. Because, man, like, we went from no one wants to touch crypto in the zombie virus 2020, and then El Salvador's a national currency, like a year and 4 months later, you know? Maybe you and I, Stokesy, we're going to think back to this interview in a year from now, and we're like, oh my gosh, Dubai, Argentina, like we're like, oh, 5 countries joined, right? I'm wondering if we're going to get that same story all over again.
The global liquidity is the key point there. When people say, oh, it's impossible that this coin went so high, pick your coin. And it's like, no. I think most people don't grasp how much money there is in the world. It's just that all of that money is centralized at the top. But here's the thing with inflation that you mentioned, they keep printing bloody more of it. So the possibilities are unlimited. And when we come to realizing that, you know, $2.5 trillion in this market, that's a drop in the ocean. It is a drop in the ocean. If you look at the derivatives market, if just 1%, not even, if 0.1% of the derivatives market came into our markets, pick your coin, doesn't matter, we're all doing a 10x easily. And that's just one market before the money printing, before the shift from other markets. So, I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and we must do it again. When I messaged you recently, I said my audience was screaming to talk to you. Now, I've been DMing you, and I'm like, man, this guy's blowing me off. But as I learned, you weren't learning, reading your DMs. If people want to learn more from you, or even get in touch with you, I'm going to inundate you with messages now. What's the best way to learn from you and follow you?
It's been very great, sir. Thank you very much, everyone. You know where to find me. All the public avenues. YourFriendSommi on YouTube. YourFriendSommi on Twitter. I make everything for free because I'm trying to help the little guy, because I was there. I don't want people to come in feeling like they got to throw half their blood and their soul into a place. Like, why can't we share all this information and value for free? And actually, like, crypto is built off sharing and networks of this. It actually is built off that. So I think if more people had this attitude, then more value would come across for little guy and little girl, and then it all builds up together. So that's where you can find me, friends. YourFriendSommi at YouTube. Obviously, everyone knows where it is. And so it's been fantastic to go through all of these as well. I hope the PulseChain community, they learn a few things that, you know, maybe they never knew before. They just think about things in a bit of a different way, because I think even next year we will invite even new brains, more people who have totally different perspectives that we won't even like relate to. we won't even relate to, because and it will be I can't wait to make those videos to be like, hey, we're actually growing so big, people are joining and you have no idea, like you don't relate to them at all. That's not a bad thing, that's a good thing, right? It's almost like Bitcoin starting off as cypherpunks. Now they're begging Larry Fink, hey, can you buy more Bitcoin, right? It's kind of funny. I look forward to those days.
Sommi, this has not only been fun, but it's been motivational and educational. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Adam Stokes. Join me on the channel that you're watching now, Adam Stokes. Over on X on Adam_Stokesy. Buy my book, 28 Pro Trader Tips, The Art of Trading, or do anything crypto safely on the crypto.land. Sommi, any last words for you, my friend?
Stay long and stay strong, baby dolls. That's it.
Cheers, brother. Talk to you next time.